So then I went to the back of the room, and then each boy came in one by one, and Prabhupada met them. And then Prabhupada started to talk to us. He said, "You're all our gems, my gems. You're all my gems." Because he said, because you're 100% engaged in devotional service. You're all brahmacharis, and you're selling my books. And Srila Prabhupada said, thank you very much. He said, just do your level-headed best. And then I just felt great relief, because that party was a lot of pressure, and the devotees really pushed us very hard. And it was like, the anxiety of the gopis is they're always sweeping the floors, even though there's no dust, just to please Krishna. It was like they had this, and it's like spiritual anxiety is spiritual. And they had us really hepped up to sell Prabhupada's books. When we met Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, just do your level-headed best. And that level-headed idea really sunk into me at the time. And I said, this isn't logical, it's spiritual. This is the truth. Prabhupada's only wanting our level-headed best. And then Prabhupada thanked us. And then one devotee, he asked Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, if we die on Sankirtan, will we go back home, back to Godhead? And Prabhupada said, whatever state the mind is at the time of death, that state you'll attain. So if you think of Krishna and you're on Sankirtan and you die, you go back to Godhead. If you don't, then maybe not. So, but then Prabhupada, he got the feeling everyone in the room just kind of went, they're kind of like, they didn't get the thing that they wanted. And then Prabhupada says, but I promise you this, if you distribute my books until your dying day, Lord Chaitanya will personally come and take you back home, back to Godhead. I said, I promise you this. And then, and then Prabhupada told us he wanted us all to be brahmacharis, never to marry. He said, if you all remain brahmachari, 90% chance of going back home, back to Godhead. He said, as soon as you get married, 50% chance. So the devotees, and then Prabhupada said, as soon as you marry, you must have an apartment. And once you get an apartment, you must put so many things inside. And if you're a brahmachari, you can sleep under a tree. And then behind the art museum, Srila Prabhupada told us the story of how Krishna took the form of Jagannath. He said, Krishna was walking through the halls in his palace in Dwarka one day, and he heard Rohini and Rukmini talking. And Rukmini said to Rohini, I heard Krishna sleeping last night. She said the name Radha, Radha, Radha. Who is Radha? And Rohini said, oh, Radha is very special. And Radha-Krishna relationship is very special. Let me tell you the story of Radha-Krishna's relationship. And as soon as she started to tell the story, Krishna started to listen. And as Krishna listened, he became stunned. And he took the form of Jagannath with the big eyes and the big smile, and probably a big smile. And he's stunned. So a little bit later, Subhadra came by, and she saw Krishna stunned in the hall, and she started to listen, and she became stunned. And she took the form of Subhadra, as we see in the deities. And Baladev the same way. And then Prabhupada gave this story that was I've always remembered this story, because there's another story, but this was a story that Prabhupada told us at Rath Yatra. And then I remember while Prabhupada was here, what he said on the Vyasa-san. One time he said, don't use this philosophy like a knife. He said, this philosophy is very strong, and you can use it like a knife. You can cut. You can cut with this. He said, do not use this philosophy like a knife. Another time Prabhupada said, jumping, 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 just like a monkey, over the head of your spiritual master. You'll all become monkeys in Vrindavan for deviating from the order of the spiritual master. And that Prabhupada said. I was listening to the class, and it was right in the middle of the class, and Prabhupada was speaking a sentence, and I realized by the way he was forming the sentence that he was going to say something incorrectly, grammatically incorrect. And my mind said, just see, he's going to say something grammatically incorrect, and he's a perfect master. And then Prabhupada stopped. He didn't say the sentence. He looked right down at me, even though there's 300 people in a room. Looked right down at me. He looked back up. He said the whole sentence perfectly, and then he looked down at me and went like this. And I just melted into the floor, and I thought, that couldn't have just happened like I thought it happened. I can't believe, I hope he really didn't know what I was thinking. And I just prayed that Prabhupada really didn't know what I was thinking. But it was amazing, Then I thought, wow, Prabhupada is the perfect master. He really knows. So then he came to the doll studio, and he went through the doll studio, and he saw all the dolls, and he saw the changing body. And then he saw the changing body, and he said, from boyhood to youth to old age, the body changes, but the soul remains the same. He said, this is not a Hindu problem. It's not a Muslim problem or a Christian problem. This is a universal problem. So this Krishna consciousness movement will stop that. Will stop this death business. He said, so this is a non-sectarian, not a religion. This is how to stop this birth, death, disease, old age problem. And Prabhupada told us certain things. He went and we showed him his murti that Lochan Prabhu had made. And then the head moved, and Prabhupada, he liked very much. And then Prabhupada said, I will always be with you. And I will sit on the Vyasasana, and I'll always be there in my form on the Vyasasana. I will never leave. Now that you've done this, I will never leave. I will always be there. So Prabhupada told us, this form is him, and he will be there. Then Prabhupada saw these Gandharvas, and he said, what is this? And we said, these are Gandharvas. And Prabhupada says, Gandharvas don't have wings. He said, only Garuda has wings. Of this, he is unique. So we thought, angels don't have wings. So anyway, that's the way it was with Srila Prabhupada. You would learn things that you thought were some way, and Prabhupada said, no, they're not like this. And he would comment about the birds, the atmosphere of Vrindavan, and when he'd hear the artik going on in the temple, he'd hear the artik, and he'd say, this is the perfection of human life, to be a pujari. He said, this is the highest service that one can perform as a human being, to be a pujari. And then he said, because with a material body, you're serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're waking him up, you're bathing him, you're dressing him, you're feeding him. These are the actual activities that we are doing in the spiritual world. But in this world, you're doing this actions. He said, so this is the perfection of human life. There's nothing higher than you can be, but to be a pujari. So then I had always heard from my godbrothers that, distributing books was the highest service, which is a very elevated service. But Prabhupada was saying, on the absolute platform, the highest service is to serve Krishna eternally. And this is a way to actually serve Krishna eternally. So if you're a pujari, you've attained your constitutional position, even within a bounded samsara, even within, you're liberated. He's probably saying this person is liberated. Prabhupada's position, after you were with Prabhupada for a while, you got used to Prabhupada's physical condition that was so devastating when you first saw. So we would be around Prabhupada's bed, and then new devotees would come in, and as they first saw Srila Prabhupada, they'd start crying, and it would be so pathetic that we'd all start crying. The Swedish devotees crying when they first saw Srila Prabhupada. So we'd all started crying. And then Prabhupada said, at one point he says, why are you all crying? So he said, Srila Prabhupada, we're crying because you're so sick and we are afraid that you may leave. And Prabhupada said, I will never leave you. He said, I live forever in my books. I will never leave you. I will live forever within my books, so there's no reason to cry. He said, old people cry, old people die, that is natural. He said, when a young person dies, that's some mistake, because young person should live to their old. When they're old, they should die. And that's, for me, it's natural. It's a natural thing, so don't cry. So then one devotee said, but Srila Prabhupada, we're crying because we can't be without you. And when you leave, we won't know how to communicate with you. And Prabhupada said, oh, I will communicate with you through your heart. He said, I will come to you in your dreams as Chaitya Guru. I will communicate with you through dreams, Prabhupada said, as Chaitya Guru. I also found that a little controversial because I thought my godbrothers wouldn't have approved, but Prabhupada had said it. Prabhupada said it right there, that he would communicate with us through dreams. And then at times Prabhupada would say, you know, your mothers are all very good. You all have very good mothers. He said, yes, all you boys have very good mothers. And we go, but our mothers, you know, they're meat eaters. And Prabhupada said, because the qualities of the son, they come from the mother. He said, so you're all such good devotees, so I know you have such good mothers. And Prabhupada would compliment us. And Prabhupada said, you know, my Guru Maharaj, he left his body out of disgust for his disciples, not following his order. He was disgusted. So he left out of disgust. He said, but I'm not disgusted with you. I'm very satisfied with you. Never think that I'm not happy with you, Prabhupada said. I'm very pleased with my disciples. Prabhupada said this, and he said, and I'm very happy to have your association. You're a very good association. You know, really? But, you know, that's because Prabhupada had trained us in such a way to, in Krishna consciousness, and he was seeing us as good association. I remember one point, Krishnadas Babaji had come in. He was a great devotee, a Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji, Prabhupada's godbrother, always jovial and laughing. He came in, and Prabhupada would speak Bengali with him a lot of the time. But I remember when he first came in, Prabhupada said to him, Babaji Maharaj, just look at my disciples. See how advanced they are. See how much they love me so much. See how attentive they are to me. And every word, they're just there to listen. Every word I say, they're just listening to every word. They're so obedient, and they're so devoted to me. See how advanced they are. And then Babaji Maharaj said, yeah, they are advanced. And I'm just thinking, well, I couldn't understand. Advanced? Then later, you know, for many years, these things that happened in Prabhupada's room, I would remember them in my head, you know, and I would say, in different sections, I would remember this and that part. And then I kept remembering that part. Prabhupada said we were advanced, but these were two Paramahamsas, and I'm so full of material desires. You know, my mind was just filled with all kinds of nonsense in those days, and even worse than now, you know. But Prabhupada was saying we were advanced, and I couldn't understand. But then I remember, Prabhupada said, why were they advanced? They were so attentive to me. They love me so much. They're so devoted to me. They want to please me so much. They're listening to every one of the words that I say. So then I realized, oh, that's advanced devotee. Advanced devotee is the one who's the most attentive to Srila Prabhupada, who's so devoted to Prabhupada, who listens to his every word. This is advanced devotee. This, to me, is what Prabhupada was teaching me, and you know, and teaching us all. But to me, that's what it meant, and it took me many years to understand this. Many years. Then another time, Srila Prabhupada, at one time when lots of devotees were there, especially the people that Prabhupada called Ridvik Acharyas, transparent to the previous Acharya. I never heard Prabhupada refer to the 11 that he was going to ask to initiate as gurus, but Prabhupada called them Ridvik Acharyas, transparent to the previous Acharya. You know, that's what Srila Prabhupada said. Now, these devotees who say this or that thing, one's like a right and left now. There's a right group, there's a right wing devotees and there's left wing devotees. But Srila Prabhupada called it Ridvik Acharya, transparent to the previous Acharya. And he said, he would often say, he would talk about this to the devotees, to Goswami Maharaj, to Bhavananda, to Sasarup. He would, very long time about what he wanted them to do, how to initiate, how to carry on. And it was everyone's understanding that those disciples would be their disciples. And I was very surprised to see in that letter, that July 9th or 7th letter, that Prabhupada was going to be, they were going to enter Prabhupada's book, you know, of disciples. Because Prabhupada was, it seemed while I was in the room that the new people were going to be the Marga brothers' disciples, and Srila Prabhupada would be grandfather guru. He even said that word. He would be grandfather guru. And, you know, there was recordings going on all the time. As soon as Prabhupada spoke, they would turn the recording off, the recorder on, and then they'd turn it off. It's not that Prabhupada spoke like he did in good health. Prabhupada was mostly just sitting there quietly, almost sleeping, it would appear, resting. But as soon as Prabhupada would speak, the recorder was right by his head, and they just hit the on switch. So that's why when you hear those tapes, it's clicking on and off. Srila Prabhupada, at one point, he had all the devotees in the room. Bhavananda was there. I remember Giri Raj Maharaj had come in from Nepal, I think. Jayabhataka Maharaj was there. Sasarup Maharaj was there. Jayadvaita Maharaj was there. He was a brahmachari. Panchadavidam, who's now Janardhan Maharaj with Govinda Maharaj's group, and Sridhar Maharaj's his mat, and they were all there. And Prabhupada said at one point, he said, "Of my disciples, I see no one who has my qualities." And then he said, "But if I look at this or that one, some qualities I see. And if I look at a group of them, some percentage of my qualities are certainly there." He said, "So I think that this movement I have some hope that this movement can continue on." He said, "And so the test of your love for me will be shown in how well you work together." You know, and this I felt was like Prabhupada saying that no one person was going to be, but the GBC was that group of devotees. Together, we would have a percentage of Srila Prabhupada's qualities. Even the GBC, together, only a percentage of Srila Prabhupada's qualities. This I heard from Prabhupada himself. So within the GBC, we have a percentage of the qualities of Srila Prabhupada. So we have some hope that this society will go on. And we see for 30 years, it has gone on. And it will go on. So then Prabhupada said of his sannyas disciples that he had given sannyas to, he said that if they fall down after he leaves, they can never be given sannyas again. He said, if you do, their fall down will go on forever. He said, so if a sannyasi falls down, they can never be given back. He said, only I can do this. Prabhupada said, only I can reinstate them. You cannot reinstate. So this was an order Prabhupada gave. And then Srila Prabhupada said that, I think all this happened in the same day, as the order that I'm saying it. Then Prabhupada said that he wanted $1 million put in a fixed account. He said, I want $1 million put in a fixed account, and I want that money never to be withdrawn, and the interest on this money will go to renovate the holy places of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, those that are Gupta and Lupta, those that are covered or lost. We want them revealed and brought back. So then they said, Srila Prabhupada, which ones? The ones in Bengal, the ones in Bangladesh, or the ones in Orissa? Which ones first? Prabhupada said, the ones in Bengal first. He said, but before that, before we do any of this renovation of these holy places, I want that my godbrother's mat, Sridhar Maharaj, I want my godbrother Sridhar Maharaj's mat finished. He said, because he's worked his whole life to establish this mat, Sri Chaitanya Saraswati mat. He said, I want this finished because before he dies, I said, I want him to see this. So before we start renovating these holy places, that money should go to him first. Then another time I remember in the room, Srila Prabhupada would talk about his godbrothers, and he said, I am the only son of my Guru Maharaj. He said, I'm the only son. He said, the son inherits the business of the father. And he said, and I'm the only, of my godbrothers, I'm the only one who has inherited the business of my father. He said, the rest of my godbrothers are all like daughters, because the daughters stay within the house of the spiritual master, of the father. They don't get the business. They stay within the father's house. So they're all daughters. He said, but Prabhupada only had one son. My Guru Maharaj only had one son, and that is me. He said, so I'm the only son of my Guru Maharaj. All my godbrothers are daughters. And then he said, the Gaudiya Math deviated so much from my spiritual master, from our spiritual master. He said, but, he said, they're still the best representatives of Lord Chaitanya on this planet, next to me. So next to Srila Prabhupada, they were the best. He said, first is Prabhupada, then it's the Gaudiya Math. That's how Prabhupada saw it. But at this time, Prabhupada was talking to Swarup Damodar, and he said that there are 4 kinds of birth. There's birth from the egg, there's birth from sweat, there's birth from the womb, and there's birth from the seed. He said, so there's 4 kinds of birth, but scientists are saying that life is coming from a combinations of chemicals. But Prabhupada is saying they're coming in 4 ways. Through seeds, through sweat, through the womb, and through eggs. This is the life is coming from life. He pressed this point. He said, the scientists, he said, cannot understand Bhagavad-gita. He said, the scientists cannot understand the verse from Bhagavad-gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nakam Jati Nakom Jati. He says, they cannot understand that the Brahma Bhuta person, he's self-realized. He's experiencing happiness from within. Even his body is completely destroyed. He is in ecstasy, he said. And then he said, I am that Brahma Bhuta person. That's the last words Prabhupada said to us when he was speaking to us. I am that Brahma Bhuta person. I remember one point Prabhupada said that he had always prayed his whole life. Now, can you imagine such a thing? He had always prayed his whole life to be able to give up eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Can you imagine praying to Krishna, dear Krishna, please let me give up eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Prabhupada said, I have always prayed my whole life to Krishna to give up eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. He said, now I've given up the defending and the mating. And by this disease, I've also given up the eating and the sleeping. So Krishna has finally answered my prayer. You know, and then he says, and now the smell is going. The sense of smell is gone. So that means death will come soon. He said, because when the smell goes, then death comes soon. When you cannot smell anymore. But, you know, can you imagine, you know, to pray to Krishna, to give up these things? So this Prabhupada saying, he was telling us, you know, he was revealing to us his true nature. he is completely free from eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. You know, the eating and the sleeping part is a little hard to give up, you know. And he did. Je anilo premadana koruna prachu